Headline news most affecting Chilliwack this week. RCMP say there's no child porn in the Chilliwack school system. Harrison politics taking another twist and turn. An update on the transit drivers dispute. Restorative justice, they have a fundraiser coming up. And the Western Hockey League has an issue. So are they going to kiss and make up with Chilliwack? Josh will have more in sports. Our special guests this week include MP Brad Viss and Steve Roukema with Restorative Justice. All right, Chilliwack, let's get started. Chilliwack RCMP's Serious Crimes Unit has reviewed the content of concern with the Chilliwack School Board and determined it does not meet the legal definition of child pornography. So the backstory. About a week ago, Chilliwack RCMP received a report from Tanya Gaw with Action for Canada, allegedly that written publications within the Chilliwack School District libraries contain child pornography. The Mountie stated the criminal code was not broken. Local trustee Heather Maws posted to her trustee Facebook page that an inquiry was filed. RCMP media spokesperson Sergeant Krista Vrolik stated, police, quote, have a duty to investigate these allegations, but it became clear to the investigator, who has years of experience in investigating child pornography, that while the material might be deemed inappropriate or concerning to some people, it does not constitute child porn. Municipal elections were last October. The village of Harrison elected Ed Wood to the mayor's chair. It seems something has gone wrong. At the Tuesday council meeting, the mayor announced he received an official letter from the Harrison Hot Springs Village Council for a vote of no confidence signed by all 4 members of the village council. Now, he wants the issue to be part of a public hearing and not in private. He's calling this action playground politics. Now, there have been social media accusations that the council, without the mayor, have met in private. Now, should all of this proceed, the village could, and we stress could, be heading for another election. chillTV did reach out to the mayor and council for statement. Mayor Ed Wood has declined our offer to come on air. Waiting for a cab in Chilliwack is always a pain at the best of times. The Progress reporting that the group, the East Fraser Valley Hospitality Group, has met with representatives from the City of Chilliwack, RCMP, ICBC, and the Downtown Chilliwack BIA on a quest to bring major services like Uber or Lyft to the region. Now, Uber and Lyft were approved to operate in Zone 1, so that's the Lower Mainland and Whistler. And that was in January of 2020, but they did not venture east of Langley until later. A few months after that, the City of Chilliwack did approve intermunicipal licensing for ride-hail companies to operate over these boundaries. Other cities like Abbotsford have those options, and Trevor McDonald, the executive director for the Chilliwack BIA, says it's time for Chilliwack to promote drivers to go through all the paperwork to get the license. As of broadcast time, there remains no movement in the bus drivers' dispute between BC Transit and the drivers' union. Bus drivers are adamant that if their wage demands are not addressed, there will be a 2-day full-service shutdown of transit in both Abbotsford and Chilliwack. Essential handy-dart routes would be maintained. So the job action, should it go ahead, would be Monday and Tuesday, this coming Monday and Tuesday, February 27th and 28th. Currently, drivers continue to not take fares from customers, so you're riding for free. 3 churches that challenged the ban on public gatherings during the COVID-19 lockdowns in 2020 and 2021 will attempt to appeal their case to the Supreme Court of Canada. Black Press reporting that a notice of leave to appeal was filed on February the 14th on behalf of Langley's Riverside Calvary Chapel, the Emmanuel Covenant Reformed Church in Abbotsford, and the Free Reformed Church of Chilliwack. Now, the BC Court of Appeal recently ruled against the churches, who had challenged the province's right to shut down in-person religious services during the second wave of the pandemic. They lost their first case in 2021. They were denied again this past December in appeal. Now, to be heard by the Supreme Court of Canada, lawyers have to file to leave appeal application. It's a mouthful. Now, here's the caveat. About 600 requests for the Supreme Court to hear cases are filed every year. The court usually turns most of them down, so the law of averages, we'll see how this plays out. Chilliwack Supports Ukraine is asking you to join them on Friday for a candlelight vigil at the north side of the Vedder Bridge as they stand in solidarity with the people of Ukraine. It was February 24th of 2022 that Russia invaded Ukraine, and since then there have been 130,000 casualties. Now, this organization does have a Facebook event page for more information. Tickets are now on sale for the Chilliwack Restorative Justice Better Way Celebration Dinner. Now, this is to provide restorative education and response in the schools and the community. Tickets are $55. The event's coming up May the 6th at the Chilliwack Curling Club Banquet Hall. Steve Roukema, the Executive Director of Restorative Justice, will be joining us in a couple of minutes for an update on what's happening here. Now, Brad Viss, the Member of Parliament for Mission-Matsqui-Fraser Canyon, has launched a petition calling on the Minister of Infrastructure and Communities to provide additional funding for the District of Kent and the Lettsmont Regional Aquatic Centre. Viss said in a statement that he's pleased to hear that the feds are providing funding for the project, but that was last spring. Due to inflation and supply chain challenges, the cost of the project has increased. MP Viss will be joining News of the Week for an update on this in just a couple of minutes' time. February 19th, 2023, marking the 40th anniversary of Joanne Pedersen's disappearance. Chilliwack RCMP have not lost hope that they will find out what actually happened. It was February 19th, 1983, Joanne disappeared from a phone booth at the Penny Pincher store near the corner of Vetter Road and Watson Road in Chilliwack. She was only 10 years old at the time. Joanne had called her parents to come pick her up, and she'd been locked out of the house nearby. By the time her mom and dad arrived, Joanne was gone. She has not been seen or heard from since. The lone person of interest was ruled out. Mounties are now asking for anyone, all these years later, to come forward with any information. Chilliwack Kent MLA Kelly Padden says a community grant for a not-for-profit in Chilliwack will help the organization buy equipment and upgrade their facilities in order to improve their services for people and animals. Padden said in a release that the Chilliwack Animal Safe Haven Society does important work, and quote, "I'm glad this funding will help them switch to more efficient energy. Solar panels will help to reduce costs while keeping the animals safe and warm. The Community Gaming Grants Program provides about $5.5 million to 49 not-for-profits that will allow them to make improvements so they can keep delivering services to people. The Chilliwack Animal Safe Haven Society will be receiving about $40,000 to install solar panels and heat pumps to keep everybody warm." After the break, could the Dub make a comeback in Chilliwack? Josh will have more in sports. News of the Week continues with MP Brad Viss, Mission-Matsqui-Fraser Canyon. We've got a couple of things we want to touch base on. Mr. Viss, you recently put out a statement on the new aquatic center that is going in Agassiz. Now, is there a concern there's not enough money for this, or what's the actual gist of what you were trying to convey here?
Right. So what's going on right now is that the province of BC is responsible for allocating federal infrastructure dollars to specific projects, and the federal government sort of goes along with that. It's a decent model. It's not without its faults, but for some reason on this project, the province allocated over $9 million per the province's determination, and the federal government was only required to put forward $450,000 in change. And so generally there's a better distribution of, or a better proportionality between the breakdown of funding between the respective levels of government, including the municipality. So right now I am working in good faith with my Lettsmont colleagues and the District of Kent. And if you're not familiar with Lettsmont, that is Chief Andrew Victor from Shem First Nation, Chief Johnny Williams from Skowlitz, Tyrone McNeil from the Stalo Tribal Council, Mr. Ed Wood from Harrison Hot Springs, Chief Leon from Chehalis, and Chief Harris from Seabird Island. So we're working collectively because we know in Kent that it's not just the District of Kent that uses it, it's all of the surrounding reserves and the village as well. So we're asking the federal government in good faith to bring a little bit more cash forward for a regional aquatic center that's going to have a really big impact on especially Indigenous youth who will be accessing this pool.
One, I don't know if you want to call it a red flag or not, but over the Christmas holidays, it appeared to be a fundraiser for Let's-Mont, and that was, it's great, but do we have to have these fundraisers? Shouldn't this all have been taken care of when the project was announced? Or am I missing something?
No, you're not. I agree. I think the federal government should have come forward with a bit more money. The other problem that this project is facing, and it's one faced by municipalities across Canada, is that when the bid was put forward to Infrastructure Canada, the project costs were substantially lower than they are today due to rampant inflation in construction materials and labor. Just because of inflation, the project costs have substantially increased, and the District of Kent would have had no idea, and the engineers involved in the project would have had no idea about these additional costs when they put the project forward. So the Prime Minister is on record at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities this year saying the federal government would play more of a role in matching infrastructure dollars. We're simply asking in good faith that the federal government look at the complexity of this project, like the complexity of the area we live in, and that is to account for the fact that the District of Kent can't put in its calculations all of the people who use their facilities because they live on reserve, and they're directly the federal government's directly responsible for funding on reserve. So why can't the federal government just think outside the box, think about reconciliation, and be a little innovative, and come forward and help cover those additional inflationary costs that we're facing and trying to make up for right now?
One thing, and I'd be remiss not to ask, your riding is quite huge, Mission-Matsqui-Fraser Canyon. We have Let's-Mont here in Kent. Are there any other hotspot issues that you want to highlight, saying, look, we need some financial help here and there?
Right. So one of the other big issues that I'm concerned about is the Barrowtown pump station in Abbotsford. Everyone knows what happened on Sumas Prairie. It was a flood. And I really, really hope that the requisite funding from the disaster financial package that came forward from the federal government that I was a part of, that was over $5 billion, that Abbotsford gets that cut of money. Because if we don't improve the Barrowtown pump station, the next time, and there will be a next time, we have a big flood on Sumas Prairie with the river just south, the Necassa, I can never pronounce it correctly, the Necassa River in Washington State. My fault.
Yeah.
Necassa, sorry, thank you.
Yeah.
If that floods again, the Barrowtown pump station needs to be in a. We were lucky this time. We don't want to be lucky next time. We wanted to have the proper infrastructure in place. So that project's really on my mind a lot, and in general, just ensuring that the money that came from the disasters in all parts of my riding, especially in Lytton, gets there a little faster. I'm a little displeased with the slow pace of recovery in the village of Lytton. So that's on my mind quite a bit as well. I'm actually hosting a town hall on that tomorrow night once again.
Okay, Brad Viss, MP for Mission-Matsqui-Fraser Canyon. You're always welcome here, and let's stay in touch on all your agenda items that need a little bit of light on.
Hey, and I'll mention one more thing. Today
Yes.
is Pink Shirt Day.
Yes.
I don't see your pink shirt or your pink tie, but we got to stand up against anti-bullying measures. And every kid should feel safe in our school system right now. And I'm a big supporter of this day. And we can do better as a community to stand up for those that are getting bullied.
MP Brad Viss, thanks again. And you're watching News of the Week. News of the Week continues with Steve Roukema, who's the Executive Director of Chilliwack Restorative Justice. Is this going to be, we're going to talk about a fundraiser, is this the big one for the year, or just the one of many, just because we got to keep the ball rolling?
Well, this is, we haven't done it in a few years, but this is going to be considered the big one, yeah. So we really have three main fundraising pieces that we do throughout the year. We do the bike auctions, which are done pretty much on a monthly basis online, and then we also do Operation Red Nose, what we've done last Christmas holidays. But yeah, May 6th is the big one, the Better Way celebration. It's going to be, we're hoping to raise at least $20,000 through sponsorship, through the silent auction, and then through the ticket sales as well.
Now, I get my ticket, and what can I expect outside of good food?
you can expect good laughs because we'll have comedian Cliff Prang emceeing the event.
Okay, and Cliff's been on before, yeah.
Okay, great. And we're going to have also Dave Gustafson, who's a Canadian pioneer for restorative justice, as our keynote speaker. You're going to be inspired by restorative justice stories by people that have been through restorative justice and just to see the life that they're living now after going through restorative justice. There's going to be great food, serving Mexican food. It's going to be, you're going to be entertained. We'll have musical guests there as well. I think throughout the event, there'll be definitely things to do. It's going to be at the curling rink and the banquet hall.
Yep.
And there's also going to be, I mentioned the silent auction. The silent auction is going to be all online. So it's going to be online a week beforehand, but it'll finish in person at the event. So if you don't come to the event, not the end of the world, but if you were part of the fundraiser, part of the silent auction, then you might not get your final bid, your final item that you bid on, because the final bidding takes place in person at the event.
Now, for those who still are trying to figure out what is restorative justice, once again, the Coles notes, what is restorative justice? This is not going through the court system.
Right. It's an alternative to the court system, really. So instead of someone going through the court system and getting a criminal record, they go through restorative justice. There's a dialogue that happens with facilitators, with the offender and the victim, face to face. And then through that, there's a resolution agreement made where the offender will have to either do community hours as a consequence of the crime, or maybe go for counseling or write an apology letter. But through that whole process, the victim is there because the victim's voice is heard through the process. So restorative justice is victim focused, and we support the offender through the process so that they don't reoffend.
Just a quick sidebar. We had mentioned Operation Red Nose. Do we have enough? Do we know the numbers of how much money was raised? Ballpark figure?
Yeah, we raised about $13,000
Wow.
through that. Yeah. It's so it was a little lower than what we were hoping for.
Yeah.
But I think we heard too that nationwide Operation Red Nose agencies didn't raise as much as they had hoped for. I think because it's the first year after COVID. So.
Yeah.
So hoping for next year to pick it up even some more.
Now back to the fundraiser. That's May the 6th. Tickets are how much again?
Tickets are $55.
Okay. And if we're going to need information on this, where do we go? The website, the Facebook page?
Yeah, either of those. So the website would be the easiest, probably restoringjustice.ca, and then there's a tab, Spring Fundraiser. Go there and you'll see information for ticket sales and for sponsors. So that's the other thing. We're still looking for sponsors. So if there's agencies out there that want to sponsor us, there's bronze, silver, and gold tiers that you can sponsor us for, and that helps us in preparing for the fundraiser as well.
Steve Roukema, Executive Director, Chilliwack Restorative Justice. Thanks again, and we'll talk again soon.
You bet. Thanks.
You're watching News of the Week.
How's it going, everyone? Josh here, back with sports. We have actually got a ton to cover today, so let's just jump right into it. Chilliwack's Jordan Huitema and the rest of the Canadian women's national soccer team took the field this past weekend to compete in the She Believes Cup, albeit under the shadow of an ongoing labor dispute with Canada Soccer. As we covered last week, the Canadian women want the same backing and preparation ahead of this summer's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand as the men received in advance of their World Cup in Qatar this past fall. In addition, both the women's and the men's teams want Canada Soccer to open its books and explain why their programs are being cut going into 2023. Canadian women showed up for their first game against the US wearing purple warm-up shirts bearing the text, "Enough is enough," over their traditional red Team Canada jerseys. In the coming days, the US and English women's teams also came out in support of this protest, wearing purple tape and wristbands respectively, just to demonstrate their solidarity. Canada, unfortunately, came out flat in their first game against the US, falling 2-0 in Orlando, before bouncing back against a Brazilian side that's given them some trouble in the past, this time winning 2-0. Unfortunately, they closed out their tournament with a very disappointing 3-0 loss to Japan yesterday, and will now turn their attention to the upcoming FIFA training window in April, where the intensity of this dispute is sure to rack up a few more notches, so we'll have to stay tuned for that. The Chilliwack Hawks U13 lacrosse team are provincial champions. Okay, let me give you the backstory. They started the season by winning the gold in the West Coast Cup in Maple Ridge in early October. They followed that with a very successful regular season, culminating this weekend at the BC Lacrosse Association Provincial Tournament held in Newton. In pool play, They beat Wanafuka 13-7. Then Surrey 8-6 and New West 9-4 before defeating Nanaimo 8-6 in the semis to send them to the gold medal game. It was a hard-fought matchup, back and forth, but the Hawks eventually came out on top 12-7 to bring home the gold for the second straight year. So congrats to the whole team. An unbelievable achievement, not just once, but to do it twice. Just amazing. Well, cue the Adele music because Roma has it. Ooh, Roma. Sorry. The Winnipeg Ice of the WHL could be on the move. Since they left Cranbrook, they have not secured a new arena, which is a problem because this was part of the movement deal. Plus, they're dead last in league attendance. Hence, there are stories that the team may move again and are eyeing Wenatchee, Penticton, Abbotsford, or Chilliwack. Chilliwack has still a bit of a bad taste in their mouth after the Bruins were swept out of town to Victoria in 2011. And to complicate things, the WHL's Vancouver Giants, who play in Langley, kind of have territorial rights for the Fraser Valley, so we'll have to wait and see how this plays out. As always, we'll do our best to keep you posted. Curling Canada, in a joint venture with its provincial and territorial member associations, will put on a cross-country tour of symposiums focused on the future of curling at the community level. And the tour will be coming to Chilliwack Curling Club from June 9th to the 11th. The club's executive director, Bruce Renwick, is very pumped about being part of this cross-country symposium. Quote, "The business aspect is something you can't take for granted. That's why Chilliwack was successful in hosting the recent BC Men's and Women's Championship finals. Registration is limited, and so if you're interested, please visit the Chilliwack Curling Club's social media." The Western Golf Expo returns to Abbotsford Tradex this Friday and Saturday. Reps from golf courses throughout the valley are going to be there, in addition to demo ranges, seminars, retail areas, putting and log drive contests, all kinds of family-friendly activities. There's going to be a ton going on. General admission is only $14. So ladies, if you didn't get your husband anything for Valentine's Day, this might be a great gift. Do men get something for Valentine's Day? I don't know. Anyways, it's going to be a really cool event. Definitely check that out at the Abbotsford Tradex. UFV's Julia Tuxerer led all scorers in the game, but an 18-2 run at the end of the second and start of the third quarters proved to be the difference as the University of Fraser Valley women's Cascades basketball team fell to the Alberta Pandas in the Canada West quarterfinal, 73-54 on Saturday afternoon at the Seville Centre. UFV ends their season at a very respectable 15-7, having won a play-in matchup yesterday against the UNBC Timberwolves. I'd say it's a very successful season overall, but obviously they're going to be aiming a little higher next year. The Harrison Dragon Boat Festival is coming back. Well, the festival was canceled from 2020 to 2022 due to the pandemic and economic considerations. The Fraser Valley Paddling Club and Dragon Boat BC have announced a community partnership to bring the Harrison Dragon Boat Festival back this year on July the 22nd. Registration is now open online at dragonboatbc.ca. All right, that's all we've got for sports today. Thank you as always for tuning in. I always appreciate it. In fact, we all appreciate it. We'll be back with Cari with the weather. See you next week.
chillTV weekend weather with Cari Moore. We're coming out of this cold snap, not as bad as last December, but does that mean snow?
Yes, Don, we are talking about the S word this week, but it's going to be a lot of S words. Saturday and Sunday, it's going to be snow, down to about 2, highs of 5. Throughout the week, though, we get back up to sunshine. That's a fun S word. Highs of 5, down to about -2. But by next Thursday, we're back to rain again. It's BC. We get all the weathers. Back to you, Don.
Thanks, Cari. If you'd like to participate in reporting news in Chilliwack and you have a story you think we should know about, send us a note and your pictures and your video to news@chilltv.ca. We'd love to hear from you. That's the news this week. I'm Don Lehn.